Hello, and welcome to this pre-recorded event for GCSE ICT Current Specification. Feedback on June 2015, Unit 3. To help you get the most out of this feedback, you may want to have the following documents handy, as we will refer to them during the session. Mark scheme. It will be helpful to have this to refer to throughout the session, to support understanding of where marks were awarded in the example responses. Lead Examiner's Report. This document will not be used during the session, but provides detailed comments on the performance of candidates for all questions, and provides further examples and comments to help improve candidate performance. Activity 1 PDF. This is included in the downloaded documents provided for this event, and will be used as part of one of the marking activities built into this session. Activity 2 PDF. As with Activity 1, this includes example work for use in the marking activities, and focuses specifically on the extended questions of the paper. The aims and objectives for this session are as follows. Receive feedback on national performance of candidates of the 5IT03 June 2015 examination series. Identify questions where candidates performed well. The characteristics of high-quality responses. Consider questions where significant numbers of candidates underperformed, and possible reasons why. Address common issues. While it is not possible in the time available to address all areas where improvements in candidate performance can be made, the purpose of the session is to highlight common characteristics of good and not so good performance so that these can be investigated further by teachers. It is recommended that your delegates follow up the information in this session with the lead examiners, which provides a more detailed analysis of individual questions. Here we see an example response for Question 1B, Part 2. This question was generally answered very well, with most candidates able to gain 2 marks. In this example, the candidate gets all 3 marks and shows a good range of responses. It is worth noting here that in many responses, where candidates were not as successful, responses tended to focus on only one area or feature, such as font. On this screen, we see 2 examples from Question 2E. You may wish to refer to the mark scheme while we address this question. Performance on this question was generally quite good, with a large number of candidates able to gain at least 1 mark. Where some candidates did not manage to gain both marks, this was due to not providing a response that fully meets the requirements of the explain command word. That is a response made up of 2 linked parts. Let us look at the examples. Example 1. This gains 2 marks. So that it will be supported by is enough to show an understanding of compatibility, 1st mark. A range of devices, 2nd mark. Example 2. This is awarded 1 mark. The response says that another device might not load it, but does not provide a linked response to show deeper understanding of compatibility or the need to install additional software. While this question was generally well answered, some candidates lost marks due to not clearly understanding the scope of the question, and are unable to present knowledge in relation to the given context. In this section of the paper, the scenario is focusing on the development of an app for mobile devices. understanding this context can help the candidate select the appropriate knowledge to apply. In this example, we see the candidate has provided a very general answer about the impact of some image types, but has not clearly understood what is needed. Although for this question this type of response was in the minority, there are other areas of the paper where large numbers of candidates were not able to access marks, as they were not able to apply their understanding. Delegates are encouraged to make use of the lead examiner's report after this session to identify areas of the paper where this was problematic. In general, to address this, centres are encouraged to explore a range of different types of digital product and their uses and features within a range of contexts, so that candidates are able to apply key technical knowledge appropriately to the scenarios within the exam. From the first few examples we have seen, some of the key characteristics of candidate performance can be identified. These are: students tended to perform well in selecting technical knowledge to apply to some situations, providing single specific factual responses. Most candidates showed an understanding of the impact of the common file types and how to achieve consistency. Overall performance could be improved by understanding how to apply knowledge within a wider range of contexts. On this screen, we see another area where candidate performance was generally very good. This example from 4D Part 1 shows that generally candidates have a good understanding of repurposing of content and its use by and benefits to digital designers. This response provides a good example of both depth of knowledge and good exam technique. The response actually provides more than is needed to gain the marks by providing 2 points, but in both cases provides quality-linked explanations as well as identifying key content. Consistency between products gains 1 mark, and the point is expanded correctly, which develops brand recognition, for a 2nd mark. The second half of the candidate's response would also be worthy of 2 marks. Makes the building process quicker, 1. As only extra content needs to be gathered, 1. But the maximum number of marks available for this question has already been reached. This response provides us another example of good candidate performance, as well as some examples of styles of response that are not as effective. The candidate is awarded 2 marks in total. It saves time, 1. As not all the new content has to be designed from scratch, 1. In the latter part of the response, the candidate provides some more reasons, but these are not as effective. It saves money is a valid response if taken on its own, but does not provide a suitable expansion. As it is quicker, does not provide enough understanding to gain credit. The content becomes more recognizable to viewers. Would also gain a mark. However, as the candidate has already been awarded 2 marks, no further marks could be awarded. Here, the candidate only gains 1 mark. The mark is awarded for demonstrating enough understanding that less content has to be made, but a 2nd mark cannot be awarded, as the benefit of this is not clearly identified. That is, development time for the new product is reduced. Overall on this question, most candidates were able to gain a single mark and tended to perform well in identifying a reason or a single impact of repurposing. In most cases, most candidates showed an understanding of what repurposing was or how it is used. In general, responses were prevented from gaining the second mark due to poorly constructed responses that did not provide a clearly linked explanation. Responses could be improved by ensuring a clear point is made, which is then supported by a justification. Now is your chance to do a short marking activity. This will give you the opportunity to look at some example responses, give them a mark, and then compare this to the mark awarded by the principal examiner. For this activity, you will require a copy of Activity 1 PDF. This document provides the mark scheme for this question, and copies of the example responses shown on screen. You may wish to pause the recording now to allow you time to complete the activity, and then restart the recording when you are ready. Example 1 is awarded 3 marks for 3 linked points against mark point 3 in the mark scheme. Increase the amount of potential users, 1. More people will sign up, 1. Just enough for increased site traffic. Make more money for the company, 1. Two marks awarded also against mark point 3. By not adhering to accessibility standards, the company may have a smaller target audience, 1, and may have a smaller profit, 1. Although this is phrased in the negative, to the mark scheme the point is still valid and makes sense. The response does not gain a third mark for they may also gain a bad reputation, because profit and reputation are part of the same marking point, as they are both linked to success of the business. You may want to try building exercises like this into lessons and examination preparation to enable students to build an understanding of how to effectively construct responses. We will now spend a little time looking at areas of the examination where candidates did not perform as well. One particular area of difficulty for candidates was Question 5B Part 1. As in other series, candidates appear to not have enough understanding of how research impacts on digital design, and how it would be used to inform the style and content of a digital product. The majority of candidates performed poorly here, with most providing examples of questions that would be asked in a survey, rather than the areas that a designer would have to research in order to create an effective survey. On this screen, we see an example of a candidate providing questions to include in the survey, and the response does not gain any marks. In this example, the candidate is awarded 1 mark for response 2. Disability was considered just enough to allow a mark for understanding that the survey users may have specific accessibility requirements that would need considering when designing the way the survey is delivered and the systems that it is compatible with. While in some cases, research may consider the gender of the target audience, it does not affect how the survey would be used or delivered, so it is not a valid response. Location does not gain a mark, as it does not show enough understanding of areas of research that would impact on the survey. Here we see an example where the candidate performed much better. Response 1. As with the previous example, gender does not gain any credit, as this would have no impact on the way the survey would work. Response 2. ICT skill level. mark awarded. Response 3. Literacy skill level, mark awarded. Response 4. Disabilities or impairments. As with the previous example, mark is awarded, just enough. The response gains a total of 3 marks. Candidates really did not perform well in this question, and did not generally have an understanding of how or why digital designers use research to inform the design and development of digital products. This has been an area in other examination series where candidates have struggled to express understanding, or in some cases do not have the understanding of the subject matter. Research is an important part of the design and development cycle of digital products, and this is an area where centres are encouraged to explore further with their students. Question 4b was another area where candidates significantly underperformed. In this question, candidates were required to demonstrate an understanding of ways in which the example product could be tested, to ensure that a greater number of people would be able to view the pop-up advert. Typically, where candidates underperformed, it was because they did not fully understand or make use of the scenario of the question to guide their answers. Responses often focused on general ways of gaining feedback, such as interviews, rather than specific ways it could be tested. On screen, we see an example of a candidate that does not gain any marks. As we can see, the candidate provides general ways of gaining feedback, and not specific ways of testing the example product. Here we see another example of a response that does not gain marks. Response 1, on different apps, is not enough to gain a mark, as it is too general. As test on different browsers was given in the stem of the question, learners need to specifically identify the software they are testing against, such as operating systems or filtering systems. Response 2. As with the first response, this does not demonstrate enough understanding, and so does not gain a mark. In this example, we see the response of a candidate that performed well on this question. The response typifies good candidate performance on this question by providing 2 specific ways the pop-up could be tested. An understanding is demonstrated of the nature of the product, delivered over the Internet, and that it needs to be viewed by a large number of people. The responses are clear and accurate. 2 marks are awarded. Overall on this question, candidates did not apply their answers to the given scenario. Many responses referred to testing in general terms of gaining some feedback from others and how this might be collected or organized, rather than how the product could be tested to specifically fulfill the requirement stated in the question. The overarching scenario for the paper and the example products that are discussed or used as stimulus should be used to frame and guide candidate responses wherever possible. At this point, we will again give you the opportunity to partake in a marking exercise. For this particular activity, we will focus on the extended questions from this year's examination. When completing this exercise, you should read through the example responses, use the marking grid to award the response a mark. Guide to levelling extended questions. Use the level of content and quality of argument to place it in a suitable marking band. Decide if it is at the top or bottom of that band. If it is at the top of the marking band, decide if QWC is of sufficient quality to remain at the top of the band, or if it should be moved down to the bottom. If the response is at the bottom of the mark band, do not consider QWC. You will require Activity 2 PDF for this activity, which has copies of the example responses and the mark schemes for each question. There are 6 example extended questions in the document, 3 from each of the 2 extended questions. You may wish to focus on just one response at a time, and pause and continue the recording as you go. Or you may wish to do the activity in larger chunks. It is estimated that it should take around 10 to 15 minutes to read and level all 6 responses. This example is awarded 4 marks. The response refers to how the others could have input into different phases of the design and development process, such as providing feedback on prototypes throughout development, and using the product to ensure it is right, implies user testing. The candidate provides some examples and discussion of the points that they make. The quality of the content and discussion place the response at the top of mark band 2, 4 marks. The QWC meets the descriptor for this level, so no adjustment needs to be made. A final mark of 4 is awarded. This example is awarded 2 marks. The response refers to only one stage of the design and development stage, that is, testing the product when complete. The candidate provides some examples and discussion of the points that they make. The discussion is quite good, but as only one stage is considered, it is restricted to mark band 1. The quality of the response places it at the top of the mark band, 2 marks. The QWC meets the descriptor for this level, so no adjustment needs to be made. A final mark of 2 is awarded. This example is awarded 5 marks. The response refers to how others could have input into different phases of the design and development process, and makes some reference to how the stages are linked and impact on each other. The discussion is generally good, but the explanation of the link between stages is scarce. The quality of the content and discussion place the response at the bottom of mark band 3, 5 marks. As the initial mark awarded is at the bottom of the mark band, QWC is not considered. However, it does meet the descriptor for this level. A final mark of 5 is awarded. This example is awarded 5 marks. The response makes reference to how the design and layout and features of digital product are used and adapted for mobile technology. The discussion is supported with accurate examples and discussion, but the link to the increased use of mobile technology and its impact on design and features is implicit rather than explicit. The quality of the content and discussion place the response at the bottom of mark band 3, 5 marks. As the initial mark awarded is at the bottom of the mark band, QWC is not considered. However, it does meet the descriptor for this level. A final mark of 5 is awarded. This example is awarded 2 marks. The response makes some reference to the need to reduce the amount of content on a product for use on mobile technology. The candidate provides attempts to provide some reasons and examples, but these are often poorly constructed. For example, at the start of the response, the candidate refers to the product needing to be smaller and the phone's capability, but these show only a superficial understanding. The quality of the response places it at the top of the mark band, 2 marks. The QWC meets the descriptor for this level, so no adjustment needs to be made. A final mark of 2 is awarded. This example is awarded 4 marks. The response refers to a number of ways that products are specifically designed for mobile technology, but makes no reference to how the increase in use of mobile technology impacts on digital design. The candidate provides some accurate examples of how features and design are affected, and the discussion is accurate. The quality of the content and discussion place the response at the top of mark band 2, 4 marks. The QWC meets the descriptor for this level, so no adjustment needs to be made. A final mark of 4 is awarded. Overall, the extended writing questions were not well answered in this series. Responses were often formed from simple lists of points with limited discussion. Using the given information and scenario is key to success in the extended questions. 5C was particularly problematic in this respect, with many candidates discussing the features of mobile technology, mostly smartphones, rather than the features and design of the products to make them suitable for the technology. Where candidates were more successful, they were able to contextualize their responses and support these with clear and accurate examples that made clear use of correct technical vocabulary. To finish, we will consider the main issues that presented themselves during this year's examination. We have explored these to a lesser or greater degree throughout today's event, so we will spend just a short time summarizing the areas centers should work on with their students. Not making enough use of the given scenario within answers. Answers should be contextual. The scenario and stimulus materials provided in the examination paper should be used to support the way responses are framed. Generic, prepared answers, examples not being specific enough to the product in the question, continuing from the previous point. Generic answers such as, "It's quicker," "makes it more professional," etc., are rarely suitable. Responses should be specific for the context given in each question. Variable understanding of technical vocabulary. Many candidates did not have a sound grasp of some of the key vocabulary and technical details listed in the specification, which often made it difficult for them to access questions that used this vocabulary, or to provide responses that showed enough detailed understanding to gain higher marks. Not providing clear linked responses for multiple mark questions. Multiple mark questions, such as those using explain or describe, and the extended questions, require linked responses to gain higher marks. Centers should work with candidates on exam technique, considering how quality answers can be constructed. GCSE English subjects and maths are changing first for first teaching in September 2015, with first assessments in summer 2017. GCEs for a range of subjects are changing first for first teaching in September 2015, with first assessments in summer 2017. We have just published our specifications on the Edexcel website, They have been published early in draft form to enable teachers to have early sight of our proposed approach. We are also running a series of launch events too. Our draft specs and SAMs, as well as further information about our launch events, can be found on edexcel.com. Other GCSE and GCE subjects following in 2016 and 2017. We constantly look to improve the delivery of our training and appreciate all delegate feedback. Delegates will soon receive an email directing them to our online feedback form. The form takes no more than a couple of minutes to complete. Please ask them to take the time to let us know their thoughts by filling in this short form.